Good evening, everybody. Let's go ahead and get the meeting started. We're about 7 minutes late. Appreciate everybody being here. Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you for coming. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Invocation by Councilwoman Trujillo and pledge allegiance by Councilman Santana.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather this day. May everything we do begin with your inspiration and continue with your help. We ask your guidance throughout this meeting, that all of our thoughts and actions will reflect your holy will, and that you grant us the grace to love you and our neighbors more perfectly. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to item D, public comments. Is there anything that comes before the council?
Mayor and Council, tonight, Deputy Manager, we have two issues for public comments. First, we want to recognize the retirement of our employee, Emma Alvarez. She was most recently in utility building, but she actually started out in the parks department. She was with the city for 18 plus years and retired in December. She's not able to be here tonight, but we absolutely wanted to recognize her service and commitment to the city and community.
Thank you.
The other item is we're very pleased to announce that our Pecos alert system, the system that Council generously authorized last month, is up and running. It is off. We have the links on the website for people to sign up. They go to the website, they scroll down for the big red button that says Pecos alert. When they click on that, it takes them to a sign-up sheet. They enter their information. They indicate how they want to get messages and alerts, and then they'll be able to register right there. This is for more than just emergencies. It's a notification system. It's for anything that's citywide. It's for updates. It's for whatever we need to use it for. But it's to increase the information to the public directly and increase our transparency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, Cyber City Secretary, I just wanted to share that yesterday was the first official day for anyone that would like to run for City Council seats 2, 3, and 5. I am officially accepting applications, and I will be accepting those through Friday, February 12th.
Thank you. Council, is there anything to come?
Mayor, I just want to make a statement, and maybe this is maybe this is the right venue or not, but considering last week's events, and we're hearing a lot of talk and reports of possible riots, violence, destruction. I just want to ask people, please respect one another. Who you vote for is who you vote for, but that's your privilege. We live in this country that gives us that privilege. You don't need to be dropping down to other people's levels of not understanding one another for what we believe in. It's called respect for one another. It's called having a debate. And in the debate, even if it comes to the point of we agree to disagree and walk away. I saw a gentleman earlier, or a pickup, with a big flag on it. I found it. I was disappointed. It said F Biden, F anybody who voted for it. He wasn't talking to me because I voted for the other guy and we lost, but neither here nor there, you know. And I respect my president because he's the president-elect. The people elected him. So please, people, encourage one another to unite again as a country, the way our founding fathers, through God, wanted us to be. So that's all, man.
Thank you, Council. Well said. Anything else, guys?
Well, in saying what Councilman Arona, you know, no matter who you voted for, I didn't like the outcome, but you know what? God is still in control of this country. And if we, as believers and as United States citizens, we did our right to go vote, and but the control is still by God. It doesn't matter who's in office. The control is still God. He's calling whoever, He's calling the shots. And we as human beings, like Councilman Arona said, we need to respect each other. We're all created equal no matter what color of skin, no matter what nationality, what social status you stand. We still breathe the same, we'll die, because we're destined to die. And but respect, we need to respect, we need to walk in love with each other and take care of each other and be servants that we're supposed to be. It's to serve each other, to help each other, to back each other up. That's what the Bible is calling of us, and as Americans, we were brought up in that, no matter if you're a Catholic, Baptist, whatever, you were brought up with that, showing that respect, that God first, your family second, your neighbors. That's what we need to do. We need to show the world who we are, Americans. Thank you.
Ms. Vaca, did you have something?
Yes, I just wanted to thank the Water Department, Public Works, for the work that they did in reading all those meters when they had to, that week before the break. That they went out of their way to get all those readings that they had to bring back to us. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? I know that we've been giving some vaccines out to some people out there. School, Jacob's got his guys going. They're lining up. I know that the senator is here. Welcome, Senator. Pleasure to have you here. He's going to talk a little bit about that as well. He didn't bring any vaccines with him. I already asked. And of course, everything that I'm hearing is good. Not people getting sick, sore arms is pretty much it. Light fever. So fantastic. And I told the team, put it out there that this is what's going on with the shot. So people won't be afraid, or they're second guessing why, or the government's out to get us. We need to be sure and put it out there. I want those people that have gotten shots to put out there and say, I got it. If they have a button like where they said I voted, they got one that says I got vaccinated. Because I think that it's important to show some of these people that are having doubts that, they're taking it, nobody's dying yet of it. Unless you're allergic, look at the stuff. I brought it up. I looked at what I'm allergic to. There's nothing on there, so I'm getting it. Without a problem. That's one thing. Other thing is, of course, the trash. Our trucks are broken. Can't get them fixed. You gotta get time to fix them. And people are gonna be calling us. People are gonna be asking. And please ask what's wrong with the truck so that you can give them the right explanation of what's going on. You had bricks in there. You should have thrown bricks. It broke. That's an explanation. You gotta fix it. So, and this is kind of to the council, because I know people will be calling you and asking, well, I have trash, it hasn't been picked up, why hasn't it picked up? So, just ask what it is so you can give out the proper information of what's going on, because people are going to be asking, and we don't want to.
They really are.
And of course, one other thing that I'm sure Steph is going to talk about, our check went down a little more when it comes to the city. We're going to deal with it. We're going to work with it. This virus has really, it's not only us, it's everybody. But it will come back, and we have to reassure people, it will come back. Don't give up. It will come back. We have to keep repeating that. There is light at the end of the dark tunnel. How long the tunnel is, we still there to see. Okay? And that's my 2 cents.
Donnie wants to say something.
Donnie, did you want to say something?
Mayor, Council, if I may, just so you know, I don't know if everybody's aware, we did set out 4 roll-offs, one at Lamar Elementary, one at Maxie Park, one at Stafford and Moore, and drawing a blank off the other.
Saragossa Park.
Saragossa Park. So, we do have those out there. If someone calls you, you can let them know that they can't take their trash to there if they have to. We're working diligently on the trucks. I've got 2 running right now. Hopefully another one next week. So, we're not forgetting about them. We're not ignoring their trash. We're trying everything we can. So, if you'll let them know that if they call you, I appreciate it.
Mayor, on just one thing, on the vaccine, people are hesitant. Some people have their own fear factors, but Councilman Tellez, Councilman Saldana, myself, people who lived here, started school back in the 60s, we used to get that big old shot before you could even enter. It's kind of like our war movement of the 60s.
Smallpox.
Smallpox, right? So, I mean, it has to be done. And like the mayor said, there's been very little reports on adverse effects.
Well, maybe when we get the chance to take the vaccine, us 3, put it in the paper, put it on the radio, so people can see, hey, they took it.
We gotta be the leaders, but that's what you're at.
Exactly.
And you're up 75 and over.
Close. I'm right behind you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go on to the consent agenda. E1, approve the minutes of the December 10th, 2020 regular city council meeting. E2, approve the minutes of the December 21st, 2020 P4 PDC board meeting. E3, approve the expenditure report. E4, approve the PD call report. If you all want to look at, go ahead and review that, please.
Senator, we're probably a little bit more lax
No, this
than
is
you all
wonderful.
are.
No, this is great. You guys are moving right along.
I'm trying to think of Chief Garcia.
I see a large payment in our ball field construction house. Things going up there.
It's going very well.
I hate to say it, but I've had some up and down news set the last couple of weeks.
But we're in the right direction.
The power, but we got the power, we got the transformer set up and
That's great.
being energized, so. That's all it's-
I heard we had a little bit of vandalism out there.
yeah.
Now, did we ever find anybody that did that? No,
Oh, yeah.
nobody wanted $10,000? Wow.
Is that what they're offering?
That's what it was.
But the damage was in the stream. It's good for us.
Chief Tarango. Now notice, I don't know if just arrived, but animals at large calls is there any white people now, or are we giving tickets for that?
We do,
I guess.
yes, sir.
I know that that's gone up. I guess people are in their animals run wild.
They do, and especially they think that there's no animal control after 5 o'clock p.m. and that's when they open the gates and let them out. But
Or
we do,
weekends?
yes, sir. We do have the animal control on call, so after hours they do follow-up on calls. Usually it's just where there's been an aggressive bite, there's a person in the hospital with a dog bite or otherwise, but we're really trying to watch the overtime with that, so we're balancing out, the times that we do have them out on call.
I see we're only up to.
Do we have two?
Yes, sir, we do. And we have looked at putting in a third or maybe even a part-time shelter tech, just to kind of help with the shelter part, but that's something we're gonna hopefully venture to in the future. It's nothing that we've really put in stone yet.
I saw where we also had 3 dog bites.
Yes,
People got bitten.
yes. And sometimes you may have multiple people bit by the same dog at the same incident. So we do answer quite a few calls at the hospital for dog bite calls. This
Do we
week
have a lot of animals right now at the shelter?
we do not, and we actually had 5 that were adopted out this week. We've had 2 that were claimed by their owners, one of which had been missing for over a month, which is usually longer than we try to keep them. But you can really tell which ones are owned pets and which ones are just kind of feral, and so we were able to get this one placed back with the owner. This week it has been kind of shut down there. We're getting ready for their annual inspection by the zoonosis, the Department of State Health Services, so they've been painting, cleaning, just getting ready for the inspection.
Yeah, thank you, Chief.
A word on installing a chip on your dogs.
Yes.
People may not believe it, but my nephew in Dallas lost his dog. 4 years later, they found him upstate. He's got him back now.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Good.
On
I'm a dog lover, and my dog, they come inside every night when it's a certain temperature, and they're ready. They're so ready to come inside. They just look at me like, okay.
Did you get in his in or not?
Yeah. Well, what time?
Where to stay?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 44, there are some Citibank invoices, I guess credit card statements, I believe. Some of them are over 1,000. There's one that's over 8,000, and I just see the initials. So I guess, is there any statements or the receipts attached to these Citibank charges?
Yes, I can talk to we had a discussion with,
Sorry, Chief.
I'm Charles Lino.
Yes.
I did have a discussion this morning. I know there was a request made by Ms. Lino.
Yes.
And we tried to get it out. We disseminated that information to Syra. And we're going to share all of that with you, and it has all of the receipts and everything. I can tell you that it is related to the city's credit card that each one of the directors will have. And those charges, we have a policy in place. I'm looking at it right now. But each one of those items has to be approved by the appropriate level, and every single one of them has to come across my desk to be reviewed, and then also Seth's desk to be reviewed. So we are reviewing those intensively. If there's anything that looks out of line, we do question it. But there were some events, and one of the bigger ones that I made, and I'm just going to preempt it and just guess right now, is some of the bigger ones were related to some of the year-end banquet stuff that were done through the credit card.
Right.
And there were gifts that were taken so every staff member of the city received some type of gift. And so there were some expenditures there that made it higher than usual.
Okay.
And so that's what the majority of that is. But we are planning to get that to you so that if you want to review it, feel free. If you have questions.
It's just for transparency issues.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
I think it'd be good to attach those just
Okay.
for further.
Yeah, and we can get you that.
Yes, no.
We don't want to inundate you all because it's going to be a lot of information sometimes. But we want to make sure that we're giving you exactly what we need. And so if it means that we have to have a discussion each month and talk about it, that's not a problem. We're not hiding anything.
No, and I have total confidence in your department that everything has
Yes,
to come
ma'am.
for approval. I just think when I was reviewing it, I thought, man, those are significantly
Yeah, and the
higher.
majority of it is
So-
year-end and the employee banquet stuff and the
Okay.
employee appreciation thing that came into play. That's what the majority of those are. Most of the time, that type of an expense is not going to be allowed. There's a limit on what they can spend, and it has to come through. It's not going to be something that they should be using a PO for.
one-offs and unusual items like that. That's what that should be used for. And so we're working on that, and we will continue to hone that and keep you all abreast.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions on that?
One question, Mr. Reno.
Yes, sir.
I know that, overtime sometimes takes a lot. But Pecos can't be helped with overtime because I know we have old pipe, we have old this, old that, and, do we budget for any of that sometimes?
Yes, sir, we do, Mayor, and I can tell you that in my presentation or my update a little bit later on, I'm going to go in depth with that, but we do budget for some overtime. With that being said, overtime's a guess, and a budget's an estimate. So there's going to be anomalies that come up that we may have to address outside of that. And as of this week, as a matter of fact, last week with Seth, this week we're meeting with every single one of the department heads and discussing those items on a regular basis. We're putting it together a report that I'm reviewing the overtime as well as Kristen. And so we're reviewing that on a bi-weekly basis, giving Seth some type of an update and a report, and sharing that information with each one of the department directors so that they're aware of everything that's going on within their departments. So we are starting to disseminate that information. It's been there, but it hadn't been shared as much as it should have. That's changed.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Need a motion?
I make the motion, Mayor, to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, need a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Reyes, second by Councilman Saldana, to approve minutes of December 10th, 2020 regular council, approve the minutes of December 21st, 2020 before PDC board meeting, approve expenditure report as presented, approve PD card as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move on to F, non-consent. Okay, F1, update Pecos legislative agenda update by Senator Gutierrez. Welcome again, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for giving me this opportunity to be here with you today. As you know, we got sworn in on Tuesday, and we're real glad to have gotten the support we've got from this community. And my message tonight is just that we'll be here early and often, probably every 5 to 6 weeks. Be back here, God willing, in late February. And then it gets a little hairy because we start working a lot more. By the Constitution says that we can't have a committee hearing until 60 days out, and so after which time we'll start having our committee hearings and legislation will start begin to percolate through the process, as you know, ending in May. The biggest thing that I think that we all kind of need to focus on right now over the next course of the next several weeks and months is obviously vaccine and vaccine output. As the mayor knows, I coordinated a call with TDEM. The director, his name is Nim Kidd. Nim and I go way back to my days as a council person in San Antonio when he was our emergency management operator. Now he's the executive director at the Texas Department of Emergency Management. And so he was kind enough to allow me to have a Zoom call with your mayor and your county judge, as well as the other 17 counties, or 16 counties rather. And so with that call was mostly focused on COVID response to some of the things that had been happening in our community over the last several months. Now we're transitioning on to vaccine distribution. I hate to admit this, but it really is a squeaky wheel gets the grease piece. And so we have to be very vigilant and very, very connected, if you will, to dishes. And to their credit, they have been fabulous in making sure that our communities get vaccine. And in all of it, we have to ask for patience for everybody, because it's not just the 250 plus counties in Texas, it's 50 states. And so the distribution has been not as robust as we would like it to see. That said, in 2 weeks, we're going to have a very, very large dump from the federal government. The FDA approved that yesterday. And so first week in February, week 9, I think I don't know if you've heard this or not, we will be having a larger amount of vaccine to the states, and we hope that that'll trickle down into our counties. As of this morning, I asked for an update, and so far, this county has only received or administered in Reeves 413 doses. Talked to your county judge earlier today. I know he's on the list of getting approval. We're going to make sure that he gets approved by tomorrow, so that he actually has another. You have another facility. Right now, it's just the hospital, and so then we'll get the pharmacy set up, and we'll be able to administer in a better way. It's my hope after my calls with Dishes tomorrow to see if we can create a hub between another adjoining county, and we get you more vaccine for your constituents. And then after that, it's what you discussed earlier. It's the confidence in saying that this is effective, that no one's going to get sick, and that we're okay. So it really is a process, as you suggested, Councilman Arona and Mr. Tellez, Mayor Tellez, that this is something that people need to have the confidence in. It is effective. It is not much of anything, little pinprick, and that's about it. And so the FDA has made their announcement in large part because they believe that the first dose is 80% effective, and then the booster takes you up to about 95% effectiveness. And so in that, I think that there is now a new mentality, and certainly the Biden administration has suggested that we need to get everything that the feds are storing and push it out. And so that's what you're going to see in the first week in February. And we need to make sure that this community gets more. And I would ask you to keep in touch with me regularly on this. And I'm dealing with it daily in my office, and I've got great staff, but I'm dealing with it directly to make sure that you guys get the necessary vaccine that you need for your community. And so we just ask for patience, but we're going to get there. Going into this session, I hope it's a session where we're doing good for our communities and not harm. Sometimes, whether it's a partisan thing or whatever, sometimes there's legislation that can cause harm to communities. There is one piece of legislation that I'm very concerned about for all our communities in Texas, and that is my friends on the other side of the aisle think that this is a problem in something called taxpayer-funded lobbyists. So I've talked to Seth. I've asked him to come down to Austin to testify. Mayor, I'd ask you to come down as well. Anybody that you feel needs to be part of this discussion should go down when we have this piece of what I call very dangerous legislation. It is the folks on the other side of the aisle, and I work well with them. I just don't agree with them on this. They think that local communities shouldn't be able to hire lobbyists, that you should be able to go down there and advocate for yourselves. At the end of the day, you have jobs. Many city councils don't pay much of anything. Your city manager has to manage the city. Your employees have to manage their departments. And going down to Austin to educate legislators on the importance of their bills is not something that cities should be doing on the daily basis. And that's why you hire outside lobbyists. That's why you pay your dues to TML. And so it's unfortunate, but they've already drawn their line in the sand that this is an important piece of legislation for them. So I would ask you, Mayor and Council, to send the necessary people to testify, be part of TML, and say this is wrong. You're silencing our voice in Austin, and we really would rather you didn't do that. And so thank you for your support on that. Just monitor it, and I'll be talking to Seth about it over the course of the next few weeks as that piece of unfortunate legislation makes its way down the road. Part of coming here is not just to talk about what we've done or what we're going to do, but talk about legislation that you want. And so I've talked to the county earlier. We're going to work on something for your county court at law judge. Make sure that we give him the necessary, what we call family law jurisdiction, to alleviate some of the expense of litigating those kinds of cases at the district court, and allow people to be able to go to the county court when they also need the family law issues resolved on divorces and such, that can be done just as well by your county court at law judge. And also in talking to your city attorney, he's mentioned, we've talked about the possibility of Odessa College having another affiliate or subsidiary university branch here, or school branch here. And so we're going to seek legislation to make sure that we kind of create a partnership to give them the opportunity. I know they want to be here in your community, and I'll let Mr. Ponton discuss that more if he so chooses with you. Rod, I don't know if you...
Yeah, y'all may know, talk to some of you about it. Odessa College is very keen to try to establish a real bricks and mortar campus here in Pecos. They'd like to consolidate their campuses that they have in Pecos and Monahans and Andrews and have a real solid campus, sort of like they have in Odessa. And so they'd like to have classrooms, and maybe ball fields and industrial technology, and just a major investment. For them to make that investment, they need to be able to have taxation authority in Reeves County, the way they have taxation authority in Edc County. So the state senator is going to work with them to try to get that accomplished so that they can achieve their goal of doing that. If they do that, it's going to be wonderful for this community, because it'll put us, the students here would be able to get a big leg up on all the students from vis-a-vis the other communities around here. So we're working hard with Odessa College on that.
Might be seeing some regional legislation from me as well with regard to the university down the road, and I'll probably talk about that more in the weeks to come. And so I think that will, certainly those two things that we'll be doing will give younger folks, people of all ages, access to education, and that's the most important thing. We have a big budget shortfall, as you could imagine, because of COVID. And so because of the oil and gas crisis that occurred at the beginning of 2020. And so my goal as your senator is to make sure that we encourage those industries to continue to do well, and hopefully we'll get oil and gas production over $50 a barrel as it was, get our rig counts up, and make sure that we're doing that. And I also try to educate folks on my side of the aisle, the ones that are on the further left side of the spectrum, so that they understand how much this community does for them in San Antonio, how much money from this community goes to our poor districts across the state, how much money that this community contributes to the state of Texas. You might also see a piece of legislation from me that's mostly symbolic, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. And it's a bill that's about the severance tax itself. And that's the tax that funds basically our rainy day fund. It's the tax that we get from the production of oil and gas in our state from the producers. Every state in the United States leaves a percentage of that tax revenue in the county of origin, except for the state of Texas. North Dakota leaves 40% in the county of origin. Oklahoma leaves 10% in the county of origin, except for the state of Texas. Now you could imagine that every other county and big city is going to fight me, and they're not going to give that bill the light of day. But I think that it's a discussion that simply needs to be had when people are saying that fossil fuels are, that this isn't the way to go, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, we all want clean energy, and we're going to get to there in time as technologies improve. But we cannot hurt our communities that are producing the lifeblood of this state's rainy day fund, right? And so we've got to be able to do things in the right way so that everybody grows together in the right way. And so I'm going to have this discussion so that we can open up that argument about how this community is dependent on this, how this community provides jobs for its citizens in this area. And so we all kind of have to grow up together, as you said earlier. And we, I think to your larger message, doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, we're all here, all of us that are community servants, community elected officials, if you will, staff. We all want to do well for our community, both locally, the state, and federal. And so it's my hope that over the course, as you get to know me, as this community gets to know me, it's my hope that you'll get to know that I'm a person that just wants to solve the problems. My father used to tell me that every problem has a solution, and nothing is impossible. I know that we can get this thing done, and we can get our communities back on track, get our economy back on track, get everybody healed if we all work together. And so, Mayor, you've been a great friend over the last several years. Mayor Theus as well, Councilman Arona. I look forward to getting to know the rest of you. Mr. Hill, your father's I'm his biggest fan. And so I look forward to getting to know you, but I want you to call on me. And I was just told that this is on TV or YouTube or something. I'm probably going to have a million people texting me. But my number is, I'm going to give you my number, and that's fine. It's 210 860-1783. Just 210-860-1783. If I don't answer, shoot me a text. And if you need something from a state agency, they're very good at responding, and if they don't, let me know, and I'll make sure that they do. I'd like to come back and have some work sessions, Mayor, find out what TxDOT's doing for you so I understand what programs. I could tell you what's going on in Bexar County because that's my hometown. But I want to come out here and see how agencies are interacting with you so that we can do things together and work well together and get things moving in the right direction. And so, muchísimas gracias. Thank you all. And it's been a long drive out. If you don't mind, I'm going to answer any questions you might have, and then I'm going to get on down the road because I've got 2 more meetings tomorrow in the region, and I really look forward to visiting you and getting to know each other for not just the next couple of years, but a long time into the future. Looking forward to this.
Anybody have any questions, Senator?
Thank you for coming, Senator.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I reported earlier to the group at the county, about your vaccine count, and the adjoining county had gotten approval for next week for 975, but you just got approval for 975 vaccines next week as well. And so Mr. Bullard has gotten there, and we'll get the judges' pharmacies online. And so as fast as we can produce and get vaccines out, if you distribute them, we'll get you more. We'll work hard to get you more. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I look forward to visiting.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
Que les vaya muy bien. Take care.
Take care, sir.
Good luck, sir.
Okay, let's go on to step 2. Proclamation January 221 School Board Recreation Month, and that's me. Okay, I'm going to read a proclamation here. Okay, whereas the mission of the public schools is to meet the diverse educational needs of all children and to empower them to become competent, productive contributors to a democratic society and ever-changing world. And whereas local school board members are committed to children and believe that all children can be successful learners and that the best education is tailored to the individual needs of the children. And whereas local school board members work closely with parents, educational professionals, and other community members to create the educational vision we want for our students. And whereas local school board members are responsible for ensuring the structure that provides a solid foundation for our school system. And whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and to the public's expectations to the district. Now therefore, I, David Flores, Mayor of Pecos, do hereby declare my appreciation to the members of the Pecos Barstow Toya Independent School District Board and proclaim the month of January 2021 as School Board Recognition Month in town of Pecos City. I urge all citizens to join me in recognizing the education and hard work of our local school board members and in working with them and to mold an education system that meets the needs of both today's and tomorrow's children. Hereby recognition whereof I hereby through my signature. Today's date, 2021. Congratulations.
Mayor, if I may, on behalf of Pecos Barstow Toya ISD, as superintendent, I want to thank you for your support of our school board. Just as each one of you serve the city of Pecos, they too work hard in their role and really appreciate the support that y'all have shown. Thank you very much.
Mr. Jacob?
Yes, sir.
Let me go ahead and give your proclamation.
Thank you, sir.
congratulate, and of course, this school board, and of course, anybody that deals with our kids.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for
Thank you.
all you do and your staff.
Thank you all.
A little bit of information. I graduated from PHS 50 years ago, this year. We still,
Long.
That's for that big pencil and the cheap tablet.
no, we had a rock tablet and then we carved in there. We did use a big sheet.
Okay, we're going to F3, presentation, fourth quarter Pecos Economic Development Corporation activity. Mr. Winkles?
Good morning, Mayor, or good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me this evening. I hope you took time to kind of peruse my 18-page report. It was a little shorter than some of my reports in the past. The overall activity of the EDC, it's kind of comes and goes. If you took a look at my phone calls and meetings, now every time one of you call me or one of you come by my office or someone, it goes in my daily journal. Well, my activity in the fourth quarter was down about 27%. But I think what was more important is I keep up with the number of new clients that actually either call or come in. And as you notice on the front page, I kind of break them down between industrial, housing and land, EDC questions, commercial, hotel, and retail. Well, that activity was down a little over 50%. A year ago in the fourth quarter, I had 56 new clients. This year, fourth quarter, only had 27. But that does not mean that the EDC is not busy and not working for the betterment of this community. Some of our highlights in October, when we got the Meadowbrook addition finished, we were able to sell 10 lots just like that. And if you haven't been by there, we have 9 houses going up right now. We were able to purchase 8 more just across the street from lots that we have. So we now owned 72 lots in the Meadowbrook addition. So we've been able to get 10 on the market. So we've still got 62 to go. So give me some time. We'll have 72 homes over there over a period of time. We did have one retail project that I've been working on most of the summer. It fell through during the fourth quarter, but fortunately there was one right behind it wanting the same land on South 285. So hopefully my board will approve that contract on Monday, and you should see hopefully some things happening out on 285 sometime in late 21. In November, we did our EDC Annual Audit. My board will have those results in March, and then I will have those results in front of y'all in April. But I think the most important job that we did in November is I was approached the 1st of November by County Judge Leo Hung to help the county administer what they refer to as their COVID relief program. And, excuse me, my nightly alarm is going off. He came and talked to me and said, would you administer this program for me? I said, yes. So in a period of about 3 days, we got the program put together out on the radio, social media, everywhere. I want to thank the city. If you were not aware, y'all contributed a little over $560,000 to that COVID relief fund, which I think is great. We were able to, we didn't have as much participation as I anticipated. We only had 16 applicants that came in. We qualified 8 of them as essential businesses. The other 8 were non-essential. But out of the 16, we were able to fund 11 of the applications. So we did give out a little over $88,000. So it was a great program, and I appreciate the county asking the EDC to head that program up. And I thank y'all for the money that y'all gave into the county to do that. In December, we began negotiations with a developer out of Dallas for the land that y'all gave us next to the BHP building. So I'm still working really hard on that corner. And if it comes through, the deed restriction that y'all put in for retail or a food-related location will come true. Just stay tuned on that one. We did continue putting the parties together on the Bells building. The owners in Odessa, the company, Realtor was out of Houston. We got them put together. I can't really tell you what the results of it is, but you should be seeing an announcement within the next few months on the Bells building. So that was a good thing. One of the things the EDC did, we own the old test track. We've had Texas Lantana and their group out there for 5 years. We've re-upped for another 5 years, and actually the contract is going to be for a total of 15 years. So we still have activity out there. If you ever wonder what's going on out there, we have Mesilla Valley Transport, we have Peterbilt, we have Toyota. We've actually had one group out of the University of Toronto want to use the test track out there for human-powered vehicles. Something I guess we'll see in the 22nd century. But I am looking forward, and the last thing I wanted to point was at the last week of December, I had a really good conversation with Holly Girardi. Holly, thank you for coming over. We're going to try to put a park just south of the Meadowbrook addition. We own 19 lots there. And I've been in conversations with, preliminary conversations with Mr. Sorensen and with Holly. I think with 72 new homes, we need a little small park over there. So we're going to discuss on Tuesday, of how we go about funding that project. Late 21, 22, 23, sometime or another. So we will hopefully have another city park over there, because I think with 72 homes, you need a little small park. But one thing I would be remiss on the two people that helped me on the COVID relief committee. There was 3 of us. I want to thank Oscar Ornelas. He served for the city, and Charles Lewing for the county. So I'm still looking, at the challenges of 21. We all know what they are. Sales tax down 50%, activity is down about 50%, but that doesn't mean, like I like your analogy, the end of the tunnel, we don't know how long it is, but we do know that we will come to the end of that tunnel and things will be better. So, do y'all have any questions? I'm sure you memorized my 18-page report. Yes, sir.
More on the Meadowbrook project.
Yes, sir.
As far as light and street lights.
Yeah, you would bring that up.
Yes, sir.
That is one thing, quite honestly, that I didn't have designed. And so fortunately, Greg Underwood, right before Christmas actually, he and I finally met. They got them staked. We've got them paid for. Phase 2 and Phase 3, all electrical has been put in, but the street lights, there's 3 on Monroe and 3 on Jackson. And like I said, they've been paid for. I'm just waiting for y'all to kind of get them into the pipeline.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm just curious, because I hadn't seen, I was kind of riding around the other day over there.
It's a little dark.
Yes.
It's a lot dark. So yeah, I actually did not plan that in the originals. I was more worried about housing than I was lighting, but between Titus, me, and Greg, we got it done.
Just curious. Great.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Winkle, I do want to thank you also because you host our meetings on every other Tuesday for the COVID and everything that we get together. I appreciate that so much.
Good. Glad to do it.
Taking the lead on that. I think it really helps a lot. I know a lot of us are on there, but some of us that are, appreciate it. Thank you so much for that.
What he's speaking about is our 2x4 group. We have a COVID-19 phone call every Tuesday from 11:30 to 12, and it's quite informed. We're getting a lot done, a lot discussed. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I read where some educators were given the vaccine here in town.
Yes, sir.
Think about a paper. What do you think about our frontline people here at the city and the county?
I think
they meet, they see people every day. older generation?
Anybody that deals with the public right now needs to be considered frontline essential. So that goes for the city and the county. You know, I've had my 84-year-old father ask, how do I get in line? I said, Dad, we just got to get you registered. So no, we need to get the word out. That's what we talked about in the meeting at the Reeves County Annex this afternoon with the senator, is how to get the information out to the citizens to get registered, because in our phone call on Tuesday, that is the biggest stumbling block, is getting people registered. That's what takes so long, not administering it, but the registration. So we need to get on with it, Councilman.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, sir.
how do they register?
According to Ms. McKinney, the CEO, there is a button on their homepage that says COVID, but it is not working as of yet. They've had some technical difficulties, and she has said that as soon as it is up working, she will send me a text, and I am to get the information out to all the 2x4 members. They will get it out from there. But it will be on the Reeves County Hospital's website. Thank y'all. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Thank you for your hard work.
Okay, we'll go on to F4, update city attorney activity report. Mr. Putnam?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to try to give you all an update on some activities from the City Attorney's Office for the City of Pecos. Next slide, please. Oh, thanks.
Going forward.
Just like that?
Forward and this back.
Okay. Well, I think y'all have put together, Seth has put together a great staff here. They're good to work with. We work closely together and respond to each other and try to answer each other's questions to get done the work for the city. We had to work for several months on this Colgate Energy electric line easement. Like the Councilor Arona's well aware of that one, and that took quite a while to get done. It was some issues on who owned that property and issues with Colgate Energy, and et cetera. But we got that, and we received the payment from them on that easement. We also had water line and emergency access easements to be granted at the First Keystone Industrial Park. That's the industrial park down Highway 17 on the east side of the prison. And we finalized that in October, and they paid the city for that easement. We also worked to get the Regional Sports Park electric line easement for Texas New Mexico Power. I think Councilor Arona talked about that also, and we reached that and got that done on the plat just last month in December of 2020. The council might remember that this Gomez Peak issue had sort of been kicked around the council a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and it was one of those things where it got started, and then we'd send something to the owner, and then they wouldn't respond, and then a year later they'd send something back to us. And anyway, we finally got both parties on the same page, and we've signed the agreement, renewed the agreement so that ESD can step into the shoes of Pecos and use the repeater on the top of Gomez Peak, which is an important repeater for emergency services here at Pecos. So we've also set up with the finance department to make sure we get payments made monthly on that, so there's no the ball doesn't get dropped like it was previously on that particular lease. We've also Diamondback Energy have been working with us to try to get a road use easement on some land that the city owned, and they were trying to get the city to accept a payment of $55 a rod, and we got them to go up to $70 a rod. We told them we weren't going to take the university lands rate for the city, that we're going to try to get the market rate, because we think that's better for the citizens of Pecos. High Hook development was really a headache for Seth and the water department and me for 3 or 4 months, because we had to keep going back and forth on that, because they got it into their head that if they were going to pay for the city for an upsizing of that water line in the High Hook development, that meant somehow that they should be entitled to get paid by people that might use that water line when it goes outside the development. And it took us several months to explain to them and make them accept the fact that we have an agreement with them to reimburse them for the proper amount for upsizing the line, but other than that, they have to pay for the line according to our normal schedule. So we finally got that resolved and got the executed utility reimbursement agreement, and got the water line approved, so that the water line is now owned by the city. We have the easement. Water's going through it as city water, and developers beyond that are able to make use of that water, and I think some of them already have. Is that right, Seth?
Yeah.
So anyway, that took a while to work our way through that. We have an issue. The theater, a couple of blocks down the street across from the county courthouse, where Mr. Kunwar had applied for a permit to get what was granted was a permit to have a fire escape balcony, basically, is what he was asking for originally. And so he got that, and then next thing the city knows, he's built that, he's cut down trees and he built that big balcony. And so we've he built the balcony by putting poles on the city property, which is the sidewalks on the east side and the south side of that building. And it went to planning and zoning, and they denied him to get another permit to use the city property. He went back to planning and zoning, and they denied it a second time. And Judge Johnson had initially granted the idea that he could use it, because Judge Johnson had said that it wasn't a safety issue for the city, thinking that somehow maybe it was blocking traffic or blocking visibility. But anyway, we're still waiting for an answer from Judge Johnson on our we gave him some more documentation, and we expect an answer from him that's probably going to hopefully be favorable to the city, but that's still up in the air. And of course, Mr. Kunwar is sort of whining now. He wants the city to let him do what he wants to do, so that'll ultimately be maybe back to the council to decide, but that's what's pending right now on that particular case. And so that's sort of a rundown on how we did that. So the biggest issue for the city is that for him to build that without permission is granting private use of public property without compensation. You know, the city can't give away public property to people. If they do, it has to be like the easements we were talking about, where people negotiate an easement and they pay for it, and there's a surveyed easement, and that's fine. So it would be a bad situation if people thought they could go build on city streets or sidewalks without negotiating an easement. Anyway, so and then finally that long-running Highway 20 case on that condemnation case is set for mediation and settlement in early February, the city being represented by the Texas Municipal League in that matter. So mainly a lot of easement issues and property issues and things like that, other than some of the routine stuff that we deal with on a daily and weekly basis for the city. Does anybody have any questions?
On the kind of related to Kunwar property, notice around town when you're out about, a lot of things need built. I know code enforcement has a lot on their plate. There's been a lot of things out there that I've seen that I question. This is one of them. You know, that when we see construction, we need to be more vigilant on going by, making sure they're complying, or do they have their proper permits? It's close to where I live. The gentleman built a nice wall up to the curb. You know, a block east of that one, a guy put a sidewalk around his property up against the curb. You say, well, that's kind of helping the city a little bit, but the previous one, it's a wall. You know, do they get, you know, permits for that? If they don't, what are the legalities of the city?
The law is that you cannot adversely possess against the sovereign. In other words, if somebody builds something on city property, it doesn't become theirs by them adversely using it against our rights. The opposite doesn't apply. The city can adversely possess against somebody. If we're using somebody's property, they don't complain about it. But if somebody builds a wall out to the curb, that's building a wall on city property, and the city can force them to move it. And so it's really what you just said, Counselor. It's an issue for code enforcement to be vigilant and try to notify these people before they do it. And frankly, before they build that wall, they're supposed to get a building permit. And to get a building permit, they're supposed to show their property line. So, you know, if they're just out there building sort of outlaw, that's an ability for the code enforcement to stop it.
And I know the argument, because I did that in Fort Stock, because I wanted to build a carport in the house that I had there, but from the middle of the street, the city has a right of way for what, 25 feet on each side, 50 feet is what was in that section of mine.
In Pecos, it varies depending on when it was platted.
But, you know, there was a gentleman that had a house opposite of mine, he did, but he was grandfathered. I hate that word, but it is what it is, you know. It comes after the ordinance was written, you know, but, you know, so be it, you know. And I had my arguments with council then, you know, I was in the council then, and that, you know. But fair is fair, and if we have codes, we need to enforce them. You know, we need to educate the people. Of course, sometimes people say, well, I'll do it now and ask for forgiveness later. You know? And that's not the way to do it. That's not the way we want people to. You know, there's some people out there that are doing it right. Right. Getting their permits and doing what needs to be done. And it's very discouraging for those when they see other people doing it at their whim, at their own desire, and not facing any consequences.
Now, something like that, are we within our legal rights to just go knock it down since it's on the city property?
Well, we would be, but we would go through a process, probably go to municipal court and have a hearing and get a court order to do that. It's always better to go through that process, but we would be within our rights to go do that and then knock it down, and actually make the owner knock it down. If we knocked it down ourselves, we could send them a bill.
Now, on the opposite side of it, you know, would the city, I guess, take a fine or payment fees and say keep your wall? I'm trying to cover every base that we can. Cause
we could, but you know, I know with Seth and I, we've negotiated settlements on cases like this. Negotiated settlements where they might pay a fine and maybe get a temporary non-conforming use permit. Sometimes pay a fine and they agree to remove something in the future. It's, you know, we try to work with the citizens of Pecos to some extent, but like you said, we do have rules that we try to also follow. So it's not absolutely black and white, but we don't want to let people think that they can go start building on our property.
And so that's my point is people, you know, I've heard it from a lot of people. Why do we have permits for this? Why do we have permits for that? And it's because of the ordinance and it's a guide to keep uniformity throughout, you know.
It's to protect all the citizens so that everything is up to certain standards. It's not a slum.
Yeah. So, you know, it's got to be fair for everybody, but like you said, it's not written in stone, so we can negotiate.
Yes.
But we ask the people, and I encourage people, you know, when you're going to do something,
do it right.
Come and investigate what you need to do, you know, to get it done right.
So we're saying they can build it.
If they build it, they need to get a permit.
I'm saying they build it without a permit.
Yes.
They did it without permission to do it, it's in the city right away. So we would have to go to court to remove it?
The safest thing for the city to tear something down is to go get a court order to tear it down. We can get a court order in municipal court. I mean, we don't have to go through the whole district court process, but when the city does things, we should try to use some process.
We can use a dump truck to accidentally back up into it, or?
Drop the dumpster there?
We can, I mean, we can say it's our wall because it is. It ain't built on our property, it's ours. But anyway,
See, that's the one thing that people don't understand is that, well, even though your property line 10 by 10, but if there's a street here and a street here, the city has a right of way into your property. You know, so.
well, you might have a private property line, but then the city's gonna have an easement coming out from that's gonna be part for the sidewalk and the rest for the street.
Yeah.
So it's not.
And that's the thing that people don't understand is the easement. You know, what does that constitute on my property? You know, that's maybe what we need to educate people with. You know, it's just one of those things.
But Donnie and the staff could show people that come in and have questions. They could blow up the street, you know, that particular street with the lots and the blocks, and say this is where your property line should be.
Yeah.
So.
That Donnie. Mayor. That Donnie over there.
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make sure we understand, we can't allow people, even if they pay a permit fee and stuff, to build in our right of way.
Oh, I understand that. That's correct.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, as far as building up to because in some instances we have setbacks, that can be done with approval from the planning and zoning and board of adjustments. But actually, the right of way we cannot let people build it.
Yeah. But if it's already there.
If it's already there, we can actually get a court order. The best way to get a court order, but we don't legally. I don't think we 100% have to, but it just covers us better if we do.
Yeah.
Right. That's sort of what I'm trying to say.
Okay. All right.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Ponte, when you mentioned Mr. Coolmore, is that the young man or the father?
The father.
The father, okay.
So
you know.
He knows it.
So anyway, any other questions? It's my pleasure to serve this council.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
Okay, we're going to F5, discuss consider resolution 21-01-01R, a resolution to approve the calculation of employees' holiday pay. Ms. Irie?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kristen Irie, Deputy City Manager. At this time, our handbook does indicate that holiday pay is based on hours calculated versus hours worked. So basically what that means, an employee who works a holiday can be paid for up to 24 hours for that one day, and most of that would be overtime. That is not in compliance or requirement of any federal or state law. We have the ability and the opportunity to look at that to change it to be more in line with regular pay practices. It will not penalize any employees. It will just bring our budget and our information more in line with what it should be. So for an employee who works a holiday, they should be paid overtime or holiday rate, which is pretty much the same dollar amount rate and time and a half for the hours actually worked. So if they're working 12 hours, they'd be paid 12 hours. If they're working 8 hours, they'll be paid 8 hours. And that is at a higher rate, but they're not being paid basically double for working 8 hours or 12 hours. And that's how our handbook has it right now, is that they can be paid for up to 16 hours or even 24 hours for one holiday day, depending if they have an 8-hour shift or a 12-hour shift. And because we're looking everywhere we can for budget to be cost conscious, and again, it's in line with every federal and state law to change it to be for actual hours worked at a higher rate. Any questions?
I know we have people that are on call.
Yes.
Do they get paid for being on call?
It depends on the exact position, but anybody who is called in on an on-call, they're paid at an overtime rate if it's above and beyond their normal shifts of what they'd be working.
But a specific guy says scheduled to be on call Monday to Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And be readily available to be called out?
Mm-hmm.
Is there standby? We call it standby pay.
Right. It depends on the exact position. So we have public safety that has on-call pay that is added into their rate because it limits what they're able to do when they're not at work. And then we have other positions that the on-call pay is broken out. Regardless, if someone is called in to work in an off-shift normal schedule, they're paid at least an overtime rate. And that some of them are including that on-call calculated rate. It just depends because we're trying to standardize everything with our compensation plan, and that's one of the things we're looking at. Also, is standardizing our on-call to be more equitable across the organization. But right now, if people are have a position that is truly on-call, they are compensated, and then they're also eligible for an overtime rate if the on-call means overtime that they work. So it's the same thing for a holiday. If they're going to work a holiday, they need to be paid at the hours worked rate, as opposed to, I honestly tried to find out why it was set up this way, and nobody could tell me. But it's outside anything that I've dealt with. It's outside federal and state standards for compensation. And again, it's not penalizing anyone. No one will be losing money. It's just bringing it more in line with where it really should be.
This is just concerning holiday pay.
Just holiday pay. On-call is another issue that we'll be looking at as we're going forward, because we do have to standardize that, but that's a completely separate calculation involved, and different departments, different positions have different schedules and setups for on-call pay. This is just looking at holiday pay, so if someone works 8 hours, they're paid overtime for 8 hours, as opposed to being paid 16 hours or 12 hours, some overtime, some regular rate. I'm not sure how the calculation came to be, but it's nothing that I've dealt with before.
The holiday pay should be paid at time and a half.
It is.
Yep.
Yes. But we'll also be paying for hours worked.
Yes, yes. Like for us, for example, when we get put, usually I get called out. But for a holiday, for us, it's double time. But any other day, it's time and a half.
Right.
Any hours work, and you get paid
Sure.
for the hours work, not.
Absolutely. That's what we're trying to get to.
And then when
So they are paid at a higher rate, obviously. But we're not splitting out the pay that it's half this pay and half that, and it doesn't, honestly, it doesn't make sense is my point. But and I couldn't get an answer as to why we did that. I don't have any reason to tell you how it was set up or why it was set up that way. But this is in line with standard pay practices of what we're trying to do.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'm going to make a motion, we approve resolution 21-01-01R. A resolution to approve the calculation of employee holiday pay is presented by Christie Irie, Deputy Chief.
Second.
I'll second.
A motion by Councilman Olona, second by Councilman Saldana. Approve resolution 21-01-01R is presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to F6, update discussion, software module updates to Encode team. Mr. Lino?
Mayor and Council, Charles Lino, Finance Director. Most of you all know that we're in the process of converting our enterprise software from Encode 9 to Encode 10. I don't know how much has been shared, but I wanted to give you all an update, like just give you an idea of the mechanics of what's going on. Right now we've got several of the modules done. The general ledger module is done, the payroll module is done, the bank reconciliation module is implemented. We've finished the implementation of the code and the permitting piece of it. We are having discussions with the software vendor because they have not done the adequate amount of training that needed to occur. So we're still in the process of getting that taken care of. They've been moving along, and they've got a couple of the items we couldn't print out permits, and they said we were done. No, we're not. So I'm working with permits and staying on top of Tyler Technologies with this implementation to ensure that we get exactly what we paid for. We're in the process of converting over the utility billing modules. That is coming along very well. We have a full week's training next week, the week of, I don't even know what week it is, the 18th, I think, right after that. We're going to be in training from Tuesday through Friday. And the thing that I'm doing a little bit different is we're going to have utility billing staff as well as some of the finance staff in all of those trainings. I'm going to be in as much of the trainings as I can because we're going to have redundancy after redundancy so that we have support and backup. There is a second final training related to utility billing the week of February 1st. It's going to be 5 days of more intensive training to teach every aspect that may be out there, including do some reporting and some billing structures. The go live date for utility billing in Encode 10 is going to be February 15th. So that's the next huge undertaking that we have. Then there's one more that's going to come after that, and that's related to the accounts receivable system. That's going to that will start March 1st, and that implementation is going to be very short. It will be done by the end of March. Once we have that, we should have most of the modules that we need to fully function, and I'm making sure that we're utilizing the system as best we can. One of the benefits that we've recognized just in the last week and a half is we now have uploaded the budget that you all approved back in July. I can now give the department heads and staff budgetary reports. My plan is, at one of the meetings in February with council, is I want to give you all, in essence, a mid-year update, let you know exactly how we're looking at from a budgetary standpoint. Again, to the transparency that we talked about earlier, it's something that if you haven't been getting this information, we're going to change that because we want to make sure that we're sharing as much information as we can so you have the tools to deal with your constituents on a regular basis. That's where we're at with our Encode transition and upgrade. I don't know if anybody has any questions, concerns, want to throw something out there. I want to continue giving these updates, and I'll probably give another one and let you know when everything's complete.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
How's our water meter change order coming?
Very well. That's our next topic of discussion, and it's going to be as intensive as it needs to be. I've got some ammunition. No.
Okay. We'll go ahead and 7 update utility billing issues.
There it is. Some of you all may have heard we did the coffee clutch back on January 1st. We thought that was a prime opportunity to at least disseminate some information to the citizens, anybody listening. We got that notice that you all got sent out. Seth and I worked on that other notice, that long synopsis of what had taken place that he was shared with you all, to just give you all an idea of what we were going through. I appreciate the notice on getting the meters read because it was a huge undertaking. We have 4,500 meters in town. I had discussions with Seth. Is it efficient? Is it effective to hand read our meters? No. But I had no confidence in our beginning balance. So that was the decision that was made. It hurt me and it hurt our city again by not being able to put a bill out. But putting out an erroneous bill again and again and again, I think does more harm than it does good. I'm going to be confident when we start getting these bills out. We have bills scheduled to be printed and done tomorrow for the 2-month period. It's not, and we've been trying to share that information. We will be back on track. We will do the cycle 3 billing as usual at the end of January, and then we'll be back on track. With that being said, we're not going to have a single person able to do it. If we have somebody out for any reason, if we have a COVID issue, we have plenty of staff that is going to be fully capable of doing that. The other thing that we discovered is we've upgraded our system. We have now most of our meters, and we're working on the rest. There's not very many left that have a Zinner meter on it. It's a little electronic meter, and it feeds to sites throughout here. So we're gathering data, meter reads electronically. That's what we're using to do the input in the system. The days of hand keying everything and meter reads in, that's going away. That's inefficient, And there's a lot of chance for error. The more people touch and key in items, the more errors we're going to have. We anticipate having the rest of those meter swaps done on everything except the big master meters by the end of January. So the options that we're going to have once we get this fully implemented, the citizens will have an opportunity via a Web Connect portal where if they want to look at their usage, they can do it throughout a period. If they want to know what they're using on an hourly basis, it's going to have that level of detail. That's not going to be immediate. That's something that we're working on rolling out, but that's going to be an opportunity for them to look. And it's going to give us a better time so that we can look and see there's a meter here, but there's no flow. What's going on? Well, we're finding out that there's some instances where people have nice little bypasses to bypass our meter. It's going to give us the information and the ability to go out and address those issues. That's theft of water, theft of city water. We're going to address all of those. There's some that may not have been being billed right. Every single meter in town, every person who uses water is going to get billed for the water they use. No more and no less. I want to be able to provide that and say, here's your usage. It's also going to allow us to see anomalies that come up on an interim basis, not on a monthly or quarterly basis, to where we can say, there's a leak here. There's also some opportunities that we're going to have with some of the information that we're getting from this system to where we're going to be able to going to be able to look at, and the meters will give us a total water bill amount. We'll take that and marry it with our total water produced from our well sites, and those should be relatively close. If we have a big disconnect, we have a leak somewhere that we need to find out where it's at and find out where we're losing water. Those are exciting things, but I ask for patience. The other thing that I talked about during that is we're going to change the way that customers or citizens can come and pay their bills. Number one, we're getting a second kiosk that's going to be in this lobby out here. It's going to be a standalone one. We are getting that with CARES money, so it's not going to cost us anything. It's prepaid, but we get reimbursed for it. Second, we're going to change the outside to where the initial drive-up lane where the kiosk is at now on the wall. We're going to dedicate that to kiosk only. And we're going to utilize a second lane for citizens to come up and use window service. And we'll have the window staffed as needed. I mean, I know at the first of the month, and there's a couple other times, it's not going to always be staffed. We're just looking at better ways to improve the service that we're doing. And I want to be able to give you all good information. I know Seth does too. So we're moving in that direction. I know this has caused some issues. I know that you all have got calls. I'll share any information I have, but just let me know. I don't know if there's any questions, any concerns, if I can answer anything else. It's a lot of information to share, but I want to make sure you've got everything you need.
Well, this is not exactly a question for you, Mr. Lino, but maybe Seth or Donnie can help me with this. This Zener meter we're already being able to get reads from it?
That's
okay.
right.
So what was the difference? Because it has like a little antenna, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between these meters and the RG3 meters? Why weren't the RG3 meters not working?
Their battery was not what it was meant to be. I'm going to take this off so I can enunciate. So when RG3 went in, they were a new company. They had not had a track record. We were one of the first that they'd done, and we're not the only city that utilized RG3. In fact, Zener is making quite a market in going back and cleaning up RG3 projects. The problem that caused us so many failures in our system and throughout was the potting. So basically they take this epoxy and they put it over all the electronics in the battery, and that's supposed to be airtight, watertight, soil tight, and it wasn't. Something to do with their manufacturing or their quality control, quality assurance. It just did not work. And so you get water intrusion we all know water and electronics do not mix. Same with batteries. And so that led to a very high rate, close to 40 to 50% of our meters failed. Zenner is an established company. They've been in the water business since the early 1900s. They've kept up with technology. They have a wide variety of meters. They have every technology that is out there for water meters. Zenner produces and installs those types of meters. And so they recognized that there was a market, and so what they have created and what we're utilizing is an aftermarket adapter, if you would, because the RG3 metal casing where the water actually goes through wasn't the issue. It was all in the electronics and subsequently our ability to collect data and bring it back and build. And so we're able to leave the metal portion where the water actually flows through in place, replace it with the Zenner, which is compatible, and then obtain accurate readings. And they've already, what's the word I'm looking for? Synchronized, that's not really the word, but it's synchronized to that Zenner body so that we know that we're getting an accurate reading, with the benefit that we're now able to actually have the radio network that RG3 told us was going to be impossible. It is a different type of network than RG3 was proposing. RG3 was going to have, I think, 60-something radio towers all throughout town with repeaters and bouncing back. This is what's known as a mesh network. And basically what that mesh network means is that this meter talks to the next meter, which talks to the next meter, and it just bounces the information through in a radio, short wave radio, until it gets to a collector. And so it's not mixing and matching the information, so you're not going to get billed for your neighbor's read. It's just passing along that information until it gets to a collector, and then ultimately those collectors send it on here to City Hall. And we have a tower up on top now, and it's all coming into there, comes into our central server and into our building. So we feel very confident. Zenner is working with us to resolve any hiccups. I have yet to have a water meter project. This is now my fourth. I have yet to have a water meter project that doesn't have some hiccups, but they're working with us. They're holding to the agreement that they will not accept payments until we have a fully functional system, and they're anxious to get paid. So they're as Mr. Lino said, we expect them to be done hopefully by the end of this month in another 2 weeks.
Okay.
I know the industry I work in, we went through, when we started using smart meters, we went through probably about 2 or 3 companies till we found the right. So it's trial and error till you find what is best suited for you. The environment plays a big factor. So
Yeah,
yes, it does.
the environment's kind of harsh out here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But we've always said, test city, Pecos.
That's everywhere else.
I'll expand just a hair on that because I can also tell you that the week of February 15th when we go live, we are going to have the Zenner Tech, the guru one that's been helping with the training. He's going to be here that week also. And he's going to go through it to ensure that as we're bringing everything in, that everything's working exactly how it's supposed to. He was scheduled to come the week before. We've pushed that back a week so that he's here when it's a go live. So it's going to be a meshing of the systems in a live environment. So it's going to be exactly what we need at the right time. And so I'm hoping that it's going to give me a little bit of comfort, and then I can share that comfort with you all. I want to see it before I say it though, so that's the issue.
So what's gonna happen is tomorrow, the new bills will come out for December and January, is that right?
It's gonna come out in 2 phases, and we're having to do that. And the way that it's gonna work is there'll be a bill come out, and the chances of the bill being 0 for this first one, the one tomorrow, is high. Then one will come out on Monday. We're gonna have to do 2 bills that way in order to keep the integrity of the system in and make the system not know that it's, hey, something screwy's going on here, you missed something. So we're doing that, and the net effect on it is going to be a double bill. That we've had a lot of citizens come in and make payments on it, so that's going to be offset. So it's one of those issues that that payment will have been applied already, so whatever the bill is should be just a normalized bill. If we're still not gonna cut people off, we're gonna take a look at it. If it causes a huge hiccup, then we may have to discuss, and Seth and Kristen and I can discuss if we're gonna waive any fees for a while. With that being said, I don't wanna arbitrarily say let's waive the late fees, because we have some historical late payers that would take advantage of that and say, well, you said you're not going to bill me. So if you're historical and you do it all the time, I still want to assess a late fee. It's just, I think it's the fair thing to do. If somebody's normally on time, and because of this issue it caused an issue, then we will discuss it on a one-on-one basis and try to give comfort to them. I want to make sure that we are servicing every single citizen that has water service in the same exact manner. No one's different. No matter who we are, we have to all play by the same rules. So that's where we're working, and that's the policies and the procedures that we're trying to get put in place. Anything else for me?
No, I know we're gonna have issues in the sense where a lot of these meters, they were no good. Whenever I asked, they always told me it would an average bill of what they had before, and sometimes they would tell me a year ago because the meter hadn't worked. So people are going to have to adjust to what they're paying now, because now we're reading everything that's coming in as to your meter didn't work for 6-7 months, so we just kind of went with whatever. And I think that's what is a bit difficult in explaining to some of our residents that, well, now we've caught up with what we need to be caught up at, but I want to still remain over here, and you can't remain over here anymore because you've been lucky, I guess the word would be, that, you know, you got what you got, now we have to come back and, you know, do it right. So we're correcting a wrong. So you're going to have those that are going to say, well, wait a minute, and I guess we should be prepared for that as well.
Yes, sir.
You're exactly correct, Mayor. We have deservedly so received a lot of criticism over our billing and our water. We are finally getting to the point where we're about to turn a corner between implementing Info 10 with going to the new meter system, as well as some internal controls that we did not previously have. Yes, there are going to be those that are going to be upset because they're paying for what they're getting, and we're prepared to answer those types of questions and to work with those citizens. But we hope that any of those challenges that we face are well overshadowed by the fact that we are eliminating multiple layers of manual processes. And we all know that despite our best efforts when we're doing a manual process, we're also human and we make errors. And so we are also eliminating a lot of those sources of errors at the meter, in the billing, in the process, in time delays. We're going to eliminate a lot of those errors that we've had, which we hope will increase the public's trust in the city in the bill that they are receiving.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Leader.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead on to F8. Discuss, consider ordinance 21-01-01, an ordinance to create the Pecos Beautiful Advisory Board that will be known as the Pecos Perpetual Pride. First reading, Mr. Ornelas.
Mayor and Council, Oscar Ornelas, Community Engagement Specialist. Just want to give you a little bit of background on why we're bringing this. When I was sitting on the other side, when we sat down, when Seth had just started with us, Councilwoman Baca, Councilman Tejas, Councilman Rona, you know, one of the things that we discussed was we discussed issues, big ticket issues that we knew were big things that we need to overcome in order to get going. Beautification was one of those that was on there. But of course, with a lot there was other things on there that were bigger ticket issues than beautification at the time that we had to get through and kind of mustered through before we could get to this point. This ordinance is actually replacing a resolution for a Keep Pecos Beautiful board that hasn't been in existence since Mayor Ortega was mayor. I think Mr. Ortega is. So there was a resolution for this board, and before that, it was back in, man, I can't remember how long ago but in other words, those weren't kept up with. Now we're at a point to where, and I've had a lot of conversations with Councilman Saldana about the beautification. We need to do something. We need to start going forward. So we want to become a part of the Keep Texas Beautiful program and become an affiliate so we can have more tools in our pocket and ways that we can make things happen. Because right now we have the twice a year cleanup that we do. We have the monthly roll-off program that we're doing. So there's things that are going on that Pecos is well advanced of other communities that we're not getting recognized for, and to become part of the Keep Texas Beautiful program. In order to become part of the Keep Texas Beautiful program, we either have to have a board that's created by ordinance or that's created as a 501c3. The better way is to do it as an ordinance, that way it's a city organization. This board will help us go forward with a lot of the beautification plans that we have. Ms. Ramirez has been working very hard on a beautification plan that we can roll out, but we can't roll that out unless we have a group of people that are going to help us with that project to help council push those things out. So this board, by creating this board and by creating it by ordinance, and this is the first reading, so I'll bring it back again. This board, once it's created, we can go ahead and start applying for our Keep Texas Beautiful affiliate. And this board will actually be totally dependent on who city council sees fit to be on that board. So you guys are going to have a lot of say-so on who's on that board, which I really like, because you're going to be able to find these people that have become real negative about how our community looks and give them the opportunity to go in there and change it. So that's what this ordinance is to create that board so we can go forward with putting those changes. And I don't know if you guys know, there's actually a Governor's Excellence Award that gets put out every year. The things that Pecos is doing currently, Pecos could get recognized every year with that award, but because we're not an affiliate or have a board, we don't qualify for that award. So there's a lot of things we're already doing that could get Pecos some recognition and get the things that we need in order to, make those big projects go forward on beautification. We live in the desert, but we have to find ways that we can make our desert look a little bit more beautiful. And there's ways that we can do it, and this board will help. And like I said, it'll by creating this board and you guys having that power that you will on putting the people on the board, I think just gives us a little bit closer to where we need to be.
So before the last executive directors in the chamber left, herself and Heather had met with her about the same thing that you're doing.
Yes. Yeah.
So I guess my question is why don't you just take that over instead of this Pecos Perpetual Pride Board? Is that going to be your name for the actual
yes, it'll be known as that. Yes.
Okay, because I brought something with me that I thought that since we already own this, it's already trademarked, maybe instead of naming it that, you can just keep it as Keep Pecos Proud. We were registered with Keep Texas Beautiful. It's right there. And I think, I don't know.
I did check on the.
What you think? No, we're not there anymore because we
right.
haven't paid any. We haven't paid any.
Yes.
Because we figured that you guys would be taking over. But, one of the things is, I thought that, if y'all want to look at it, I thought that maybe, since that was already existing through the chamber, y'all can just take that over.
I mean, we could, but since it is new and we're starting fresh and trying to market a new direction, felt like changing the name helped to market it in a new direction in the way we need it to be. I mean, that could be our model. That could be a model for the board, and still keep it, you know, still keeping that element, and that being the model for. And we're still working with, you know, what was there in place. But when it comes to, I guess, for marketing purposes and trying to get, you know, excitement, pushing in a new way forward, sometimes you just have to change names or something, you know. But I mean, that could be the model still of the board.
I know, we used to have one, Pip, fighting Pecos.
Yes.
That went away.
I heard about that.
Yeah, that was back in the day, just like that. You know, we have this, but you got a strong point about maybe a new direction, a new name, something to kick people up, you know. And I mean, that's just my opinion, you know. But I don't know. We got to do something. We got to bring it in. And you said the word. The negative people that always complain are the best suited to come and work in these boards. Because here's your opportunity. You know, instead of just yakking away, here's your opportunity to show.
Definitely.
What you can do.
This can also work with that 10-year, the presentation you did. All this can come in together because some of the things in that 10-year plan, you know, focuses on beautifying Pecos, you know, with sidewalks and bike trails and all kinds of stuff. It focuses on downtown Pecos, the main community in here.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and like Councilman Arona, and I like that model, that right there. I like that. It could be the model.
Yeah.
For what we're planning on doing. So.
Yeah, and it's not that I didn't like that. It's just looking at it on the marketing side, when you're trying to get, like I said, excitement, get it in a new direction and whatnot. Sometimes you just have to totally do a 180 on it, and start from fresh. But like I said, I like that. But keeping it as a model might be our direction to go. So it's still, everything coincides together.
Officially trademarked, because through the Patent and Trade Office, there's a requirement, there's a process, there's a form, there's a filing. I'm in the process of doing that. So as we're developing these new brands and these new campaigns, those are things that we're going to officially trademark to protect the brand and any revenue source.
Yeah. And that keeps us from, when you see flyers and it has our stuff on there, it's ours. You know, and people aren't going and stealing it, using it for their, that's ours. If people see that branding, then they know that's Pecos. That's Pecos doing that.
Yeah, just like
and it helps
just like the signs outside in the entry points.
Mm-hmm.
You know, only Pecos. That's the only place I've seen them is that.
But you should be able to see our logos and all that, and know that's Pecos, Texas.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
May I make a motion we approve ordinance 21-01-01, an ordinance to create the Pecos Beautiful Advisory Board that will be known as the Pecos Perpetual Pride, first reading for the Oscar Jeffers Communication Specialist.
Second.
Second, Mayor.
Okay, motion by Councilman Arona, second by Councilman Perez to approve ordinance 21-01 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. F9, discuss review the bylaws for the Keeping Pecos Beautiful Advisory Board, also known as Pecos Perpetual Pride. Mr. Armenta.
So now that we've talked about the ordinance for creating the board, this is just a discuss at the moment, just for you guys to look over the bylaws for the board. The bylaws, a major section of it discusses to where each seat, so seat 1 through 5, will have a person picked to serve on the board. That board will be a 1-year term. You will have to bring back that person every year in order to reappoint them. So that way, what happens if the seat changes, that person in a new seat might want to put somebody else on the board. But as long as you sit on that seat, you can either choose to keep that person on the board if they're doing a good job, or you have the option every year to put somebody else on that board that if you don't think they're not kind of maybe going meshing well with the group, or they just the ideas are just not following what's in the beautification plan or what's in the bylaws. When I used to serve on the Parks and Rec board in Odessa, and my seat was actually dependent on my council person. So if my council person changed, I was probably not going to sit on that board anymore. But I was lucky enough to serve 4 years on the Parks and Rec board in Odessa under that council person. This is the same, kind of the same, where you guys will have a little bit more in the know of what's going on with that board and making sure that they're staying along where we need to go, and they're not. It's just not a whole bunch of ideas being thrown in and nothing's being done. So that's a major factor of the bylaws. The bylaws talk about their terms. It's very simple. And these bylaws are going to be just like the youth advisory bylaws. When the board meets and they get put together, they will actually go through the bylaws and suggest changes. The changes will have to come back to council, and council will have to approve the bylaw changes. So if there's stuff you guys don't like, then it doesn't get changed. Their bylaws will be dependent on making sure you guys approve.
So if I appoint somebody, and then I'm up for re-election, I lose my seat, that person can be removed, can be replaced right there by the new council member?
The new council member will have a certain amount of time in order to appoint a new person if they want a new person on the board.
I think clearly for the individual being elected, let him finish out the year, and that new council member, he's got 3 more years to serve as a council, according to how we rotate. At the end of that person's appointed term, then replace him.
Well, their term will fall along with your terms. Your terms their terms will fall along with yours. So those changes will be made at the same time. They're not going to be, midway through or whatever. As you change, they change also. Because the new person coming in may want somebody else on the board. But they may keep that same person on. It's totally up to the seat. Like I said, I think that gives you guys more control on making sure we keep a vision and we know what direction we want to go down to. There is ex officios on there, which the ex officios are actually going to be the mayor and the city manager, and in the bylaws it calls it the mayor and the city manager want to appoint somebody else in those ex officio positions, because we know they both have a lot going on. So it's up to them to put somebody in those positions, but those positions won't be voting members.
Or maybe like we do the PEDC, rotated. That way they're not overworked, what they're saying.
Right. And it would be a public meeting, just like all the other ones. Anybody could come, anybody could voice their opinions and whatever. So, but that was the major thing in there, was just putting the members tied to your seat, so that way you guys know what the vision is, you guys know what plan we need to go to, and we need to make sure that we keep going down that same vision. That way it's a cohesive group, and not one's going one direction and one's thinking a totally different way. So this is just a discuss for you guys to look over. If there's any changes that you think should be made, let me know. You can come visit me, call me, send me an email. I will bring it up when we have the second reading for the board to go ahead and finalize these bylaws, because we want to go ahead and create this board by this June. So that way we can go ahead and get going and go ahead and get started on a regular cycle.
Oscar, can you get me a paper copy?
Sure.
I'd rather read it on paper than
Sure.
if you don't mind.
No problem. And here recently, I'll get you one too. Here recently, with the issues we've been having with the trash pickup and whatnot, I've been getting a lot of phone calls, and I talk to a lot of our residents. And this has been something that I tell people about. Is telling them, hey, we may have this board coming up. Since you're so passionate about, maybe it'll be something you want to serve on. I have a list of names already of people that would want to serve. So it may be one of those things you don't even may have to even go out there and go look for somebody. We may have somebody that's already wanting to volunteer. So the word is already out. I've been telling people. So this may be something that as soon as the board, if it's created, it gets put in the process real quick.
Maybe like a minimum age requirement or something at least? You think you'll get anybody that's like fresh out of high school 18 years old that wants to do something like this?
I mean, we can. I mean, I think that would be good for.
Some of these young folks, like the ones that volunteer to jump at the cemetery and help out themselves.
What's the number of board members or members that you want on there?
It'll be 5. It'll be 5 with 2 ex officio. So it'll be 1 per seat. 1 per seat. Each council will have a say so. But you guys will have to bring your nominee and present it, and then as the council, you guys will approve everybody on the board, just like you guys do with EDC. Everybody has to get approved at the same time.
Thank you, Mr.
So,
Oscar.
thank you.
I'm glad you and your group are willing to tackle this problem. It's a major problem. We're gonna need plenty of help.
I guess we're gluttons for punishment, but that's one thing that I've enjoyed being on this side, is that I get to work with a lot of great people and with great bosses, that there's a lot of things that we're able to actually put our hands into and do the work and do the things that we can straightforward and go into doing. So I think this will be one of those great things to, a hands-on, that we can actually see the improvement, month by month as it's happening, and not having to wait.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to F10, discuss, consider resolution 21-01-02R. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a professional service agreement with Burgess and Nickel Incorporation in the amount of $30,000 for mapping, design, and construction oversight of Madera Valley TOPC certification of convenience and necessity. CCN transfer. Mr. Don.
Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity to talk about the transfer of the Madera Valley CCN to our water system. I don't know how many of you remember, but a while back we bought some of Madera Valley's certificate of convenience and necessity, basically their water system. It has not been integrated into our water system. So what this does is it hires this firm. They'll map out where we need to put all of our valves. They'll have construction oversight and make sure that it's all integrated properly into our water system. The good thing about it is once we get this all integrated, it'll create another revenue stream because we'll have more customers paying for our water instead of Madera Valley. So I will entertain any questions you have.
The rate of water service 2 hours is competitive.
As far as what we charge,
Yeah.
I think we're a little bit less expensive. But I didn't include the map, but there was one a while back that because we've got some to the east and then some just on the north side of I-20, basically across from West Pecos. So.
Connecting their lines to our lines. What do their lines look like? Have we looked at, are we gonna be replacing lines here in the near future, their lines? I mean, I know we're having some issue with ours also, but I'm just wondering.
That's part of what they'll do when they do the study on where we need to upgrade and things like that. So if there's any faulty lines right now, they'll identify that and we can replace it before it goes into service. But their system is fairly intact, so I don't foresee a whole lot of having to change out water lines.
Doesn't Madera feed Toya also?
Madera's basically all around us.
Yeah.
They're an absolutely humongous water district.
That surprised me. It surprised me when I found out that they were in Toya.
Yes.
Because when I was working down there, they were having some issues, and then us digging pipelines to install pipelines, we ran into a bunch of them.
Yeah, they don't have as many customers, but they have probably, I'd say, 8 times more territory because of the fact that they're
easily 8.
Yeah, so maybe even 10. They've got a huge area.
They're still as close as the Lindsay edition, right?
Yes, they still service the Lindsay edition. Yes.
We're not getting that far.
We are not getting that far.
That's the money.
I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 21-01-02R, a resolution authorizing the city manager. Am I at the right one? Yeah. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a professional service agreement with Burgess and Nipple Incorporated in the amount of $30,000 for mapping, design, construction, oversight of Madera Valley, Town of Pecos Certificate of Convenience and Necessity, CNN transfer, as presented by our Environmental Service Director, Mr. Donnie McKinney.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Santana, second by Councilwoman Trujillo, to approve resolution 21-01-02R presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mayor, Council, thank you.
Go on to F11, discuss consider ordinance 20-12-01, adopting the 220 comprehensive plan, second reading. Mr. Thompson.
Mayor and Council, thank you for allowing me to present this tonight. We have talked about this quite a bit, but since it has been a month, I just want to do a quick recap of it. We were able to obtain a grant in order to upgrade these chapters of our comprehensive plan. GrantWorks did that work for us. We are very happy with the product that they gave us, especially for the money that we paid. They gave us an excellent product. Through these updated chapters, it includes a major chapter on economic development, which is very substantial. Mr. Winkles has gone through it. We've received his comments on that. It gives us good direction of how we need to move forward, how we need to diversify. We also have new chapters on our water infrastructure, our wastewater infrastructure, as well as some of our transportation, which are all very, very keen. We've talked quite a bit about infrastructure tonight. And those are good directions that we've got. It also gives us a little bit more background in some other areas that we need to be working on, and how we need to involve all of our other plans and to be moving forward. The biggest takeaway is that this comprehensive plan is not meant to sit on a shelf. It is something that is meant to actually be implemented. It is intended to be the direction that the city is moving forward over the next 10 years at a minimum. Obviously, there's always things that change over time, new technologies, new opportunities arise, but this should be our guiding document. This should be what directs a lot of our activities and our investments over the next decade. And so it is not a small thing. With that in mind, we made sure that we had 3 community meetings where we invited the public to come. Some of you were able to attend, and we appreciate you being there and for your feedback as well. Opportunity to get some public feedback, get some public knowledge out there. Overall, did not have a whole lot of comments other than, yes, let's do something. Let's, it sounds good, let's do it. And I think that is our battle cry here at City Hall, is that we want to get this done. With Mr. Lino on board, we're very confident in moving forward with our finances as we come up with a financial plan of how to attack that. We're working extensively with all of our department heads for our multi-year planning in order to make this a reality and not have it just collect dust. And so we're very excited about this. It is our recommendation that we accept these chapters. As you'll find the ordinance, it is worded in such a way that those chapters that carry over from our previous comprehensive plan, which is not that old, it was done in 2015 and adopted in 2017, that any chapter that this new comprehensive plan doesn't touch, we will continue to carry over those old chapters. And so it will be a little bit of a Frankenstein, but it still gives us that direction. It's already been adopted for those things that have not been updated with these updated chapters. Any questions for me?
Motion to approve?
Yeah, I make a motion we approve ordinance 20-12-01, adopting the 2020 comprehensive plan, second reading is presented by Seth Swanson, City Manager.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Arona, second by Councilman Perez, approving ordinance 20-12-01, adopting the 2020 comprehensive plan, second reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go on to F12, discuss consider ordinance 20-12-02, creating a private use of public space, pubs, policy, second reading. Mr. Swanson?
Mayor and Council, as Mr. Pond referred to earlier, it's really not appropriate for private citizens or companies, for that matter, to be able to use public right-of-way for their own benefit. This ordinance is intended to address that, where there is a way to use it as well as there being a benefit to the city and to the public. So basically this would be for instances such as a downtown business that wanted to do a sidewalk sale. If they want to use a public space for commercial purposes, well, now there's a way for them to do that legally. It's a benefit to the city. We receive a little bit of revenue, and it's not much, but it is, a little bit of revenue. We're able to control when that is, put some restrictions on it if need be, so that it's not a perpetual garage sale out in the right-of-way, those kinds of things. This ordinance could be used to address items such as Mr. Kunwar's, and that instance was actually what caused us to move forward with implementing this as an ordinance and to bring it to the council. There may be times where it is appropriate to put some type of infrastructure out in our right-of-way. I personally disagree with that particular instance of applying it because I have some safety concerns, such as having metal I-beams right next to traffic. I don't agree with that. There's some safety concerns there. But there might be other instances similar to that where our needs can be met as well as the private side of the equation can be met as well. And so that is the purpose of this, is to perpetuate and to make clear that relationship between the city, the public good, as well as those private goods, and to try to balance it and to make sure that we're regulating it fairly, but that we are aware of what's going on within the right-of-way.
Now, do we say that they have to apply every time they're going to use this, or one application to suffice for a certain period of time?
So it is intended to be on a case-by-case basis. If they tell us that they want to do one sidewalk sale for one weekend every month for the year, they can include that up front as part of their application. The biggest thing that we're missing is some communication and some expectation. We currently don't really have a mechanism whereby they can tell us what they're going to do and we can let them know what the expectation is in order to not prohibit pedestrian traffic, make sure the trash is being picked up so that city crews aren't necessarily responsible to go and porter their trash cans because they're seeing more foot traffic. It's just an opportunity for us to have mutual expectations and to know up front. And so if they say we want to do one weekend every month throughout the whole year, that's great. We'll put it on there and make sure that we put it on our calendar.
That also opens avenues like what we talked about, like little restaurants to put tables in front.
Absolutely, and I'm hoping that we'll see that.
Yes.
You know, I would love Artie's to do an outdoor cafe.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got some others, you know, that are coming into the downtown. But you're exactly right. You know, and that's a little bit more of a semi-permanent situation.
Right.
But they can say we want to take up 8 out of the 16 feet of sidewalk to put in an outdoor cafe. Fantastic, let's do it. And our hope is that in doing those things, it'll make the downtown more inviting. It'll you know, give businesses a little bit more exposure, make our downtown more walkable, more used. Because right now, you know, it's kind of just a daytime thing, except for when we have Night in Pecos and some of these other events in the downtown. And so we really want to be lively throughout the day and into the evenings. So yes, Councilman, that would be an excellent use of this permit process.
Your motion?
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 20-12-02, creating a private use of public places pubs policy. Second reading as presented by Mr. Sanchez and City Manager.
Second? Okay, I have motion by Councilman Plata, second by Councilman Aurora, to approve ordinance 20-12-02, creating a public use of public spaces, pubs, second reading. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there a reason to go into executive session? Anybody? Okay, let's skip. Go on to discuss items for next city agenda. Nobody? Okay, motion to adjourn. Say yes. Second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman
We're looking at each
other. Approve adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those same sign. The time is 7:44 p.m.